next instalment from JDH Racing, and today we're going to be discussing the Capri. Firstly, apologies, it's been a little while since we've done a video update. We've been pretty busy here at sort of JDH HQ and the workshop. We did, for those that don't know, VWDRC, Daniel did his first ever run down the strip in the VR6, so it took us about a week to get that ready because unfortunately it needed a new clutch. So whilst today we might as well fit a single dual mass flywheel and then shove it all back together again. So we spent a week doing that. The aftermath of that was the fact that the garage was in absolute state. So Daniel was away for a few days, I had a couple of days off. So what I'll do is at some point I'll get down to a quick walk round so you can see, probably in the cold light of day, a semi-tidy garage. You can actually see all the stuff that we've got going on. Anyway, more importantly, back to the car. So we've done quite a few little updates in between, so apologies we haven't videoed these. We've literally just been, as and when we can, sort of popping into the workshop and doing a few bits and pieces. So hopefully we'll try and capture most of those that we haven't recorded post the last video. So the first one then is the radiator at the front. So I believe in the last video we did, there was the lower front mounts were already done, and this is the mock-up location we wanted the radiator. We know it fits all inside the front balance, I'm happy with that. There may be a little bit of, how should we say, adjustment of the top slam panel to get the top radiator mounts in, but we'll cover that later on. I've got plans in my head to make it semi-removable with the bungs in the top to give it a little bit more support. But what we've got then, if Daniel comes in a little bit closer, so what we've done is we put some tabs onto the chassis, and from there we've run the support rods out to the top of the radiator, and both ends has got spherical iron bearings, as you can see there, so it allows a little bit of movement adjustability. It will be at the bottom rubber bushed for vibration, we don't want metal on metal, and likewise at the top we use these spigots in the slam panel, put some rubber bushes in as well. We had some aluminium bungs welded onto the rad. I was going to do it myself, however we're still teaching ourselves to do a little bit of TIG welding. So whilst I'm happy to TIG weld stainless steel, mild steel, and I'll show you some of my welds in a bit, Ali's the next step. But watch this space, that'll be good because we'll be able to do our own boost pipes then on the weasel. So we've got our front mounts in. They are left and right hand threaded irons, so we can adjust the angle of dangle of the radiator. So please don't pick us up right now the fact that it is slightly canted back. We can adjust that when we do the final fit. If you come back then, Daniel, I'm just going to show you at the very front what I've done is made some prototype mounts for the front steering rack. So when we looked at it, because of the width of the chassis rails, the Mark III Ford Capri power steering rack or manual rack that I've got won't work, purely because the point at which the track rods hit the steering rack, that joint there where it pivots has to be in line with the wishbones to give your rack an angle and try and keep this as a relatively good driving car. It just so happens that the manual rack we bought for the weasel, the Mark III Golf rack, actually the ends are in the perfect place to be in line with our wishbone iron joints. So we're going to use that on those mounts, and all I've got to do is one, just confirm I'm happy that everything's going to clear, and then get the rack as close as I can to the engine. I've still got to allow a bit of space between the front pulley, because we're going to be running an alternator, because it is going to be a street driven car, but I only need the one belt because it's just the alternator, no power steering, and we're not going to run a belted water pump, it's electric. So that's the front bit there. Okay, moving back then, so if we look at the front shocks, a little bit of a change. We've got some springs. So these were originally the springs on the rear of the car. The ones on those shocks, the Gauss coilovers we've had on there, way too heavy. And I think if you look back in our previous videos, we've spoken about the weasel and about how the back end needs to be quite soft to allow the tyres to grip. So what I've done is I've replaced the rear shocks with some, currently they are 6-inch, because you'll see at the back end the shocks are quite short. So we've got some 6-inch 120-pound springs at the back. The front ones, which are some in the region of 225 thereabouts, are on the front, And again, we can play with that later on when we get it on the road and it's got its road weights. But what we have done is we've got the shocks in, we've got them in place. I've got the lost for words now. The top spring mounts, they're in place and drilled for the shocks, and then on top of between the spring and the top mounts, we've then got not spherical bearings. Can't call them. Asset roller bearings that go between the two to allow the shocks then to turn without the spring and also adjusting as well. And I think if you go back to the unboxing video for the Strange rear shocks, it's the same one. It's the eye-back bearings, and it's what stops it from making that doing 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 noise that you hear on some of the lowered cars that don't have those sort of bearings fitted. Okay, right, where to go to next? If you go right outside, Daniel, and I'm going to point to, and I can't recall whether we've done it, the most obvious thing is a steering column. So, we were looking to fit a bespoke column, and you know what, I quite fancy trying to use some of the original Ford Capri stuff. And ironically it fits, well in my eyes it does anyway. You can disagree if you want, please leave a comment, I'm sure you probably will. But what I've done is we've put the original Ford Capri column in. Whether I run the stalks or not is a different matter, but right now it does enable me to have the full functionality as you would do a normal road car when you get in. Now whether we take those off because of access issues getting into the car and put them on the switch panel, TBC. But more importantly, what we have got then is we've got the steering column located centrally, it's at the right height, we've got our mounts welded in, the steering column will bolt to using the original Ford plates. We've also got a quick release boss on there, so same as the Weasel, you can take the steering wheel on and off, which will make getting out of the car a lot easier. And then we've got a lower mount put onto our support bar for our mid plate. All of it still to be fully welded. And then looking down, we've also got the mid plate mount. They're all drills. So currently we're running 3 M8 8.8 grade bolts running through. So they're all done, ready to bolt the motor plate up. But again, we're not going to go firm on physically bolting those up, just because we need to take the engine, the motor plate and the trans out to then flip the chassis over to do all the full welding of every seam. What else have we got? Ooh, I think we already covered the shifter last time. However, if you look down at the floors, you will see some nice stainless steel exhausts. So this is my first go at TIG welding stainless steel. I don't think it's too bad, if I'm honest. I could have done better. It's all a learning curve, but there we go. You've got to start somewhere. So what I've done is, currently it's in 3 sections. The plan is to exit the car just in front of, the rear wheels. And obviously because it's a road going car, it has to have some form of silencer on it. So I've gone for basically the most simplistic silencer I can. So I've got 2 flow masters on there, and the tubing is 3 inches front to back. And what I've done is I've done everything using the clamps, so that what we can do is, if needs be, is basically take out the silencers. If we want to run straight through for whatever reason, we can take those out. More importantly, if we need to replace a section, I can literally just unclamp it and take a bit out. Both exhausts are mirrored, so there's absolutely no reason why if I get an issue one side I can't flip them over, or vice versa. The only thing we've got to work out is where exactly post the sort of the front bulkhead, where they're going to go. At the moment, because the angle of the current headers, I'm inclined actually to pass it under the front chassis rail. I'm just not quite sure yet. That's why I've not carried on with that bit. I've got the bits, just haven't gone past that part there. Right. The other thing I haven't done is put the tailpipe on. So where it exits out the back of the car in front of the rear wheels, that final bit will be done obviously once the body shell's on, when we know the exact location. So that'll be the finesse piece at the very end. Right then, what we've also got is a passenger seat. Now, I was hoping to get a 55 series seat to match the same as the driver's seat, but actually I was thinking about this. Whilst the driver has the funny cage and the harness obviously to keep them in. The passenger is a little bit more exposed, and we have gone for a slightly smaller seat. So what I've done is we've gone for the 38 series, which is a predecessor to this one, but it has the like sort of the shoulder pieces there to basically keep the passenger more restrained, and hopefully keeps their arms away from the important shifter down here. So that's the passenger seat. The mounts are all done. Again, it just needs some support plates underneath finishing off, which we'll do once the seat's out and flip the chassis over. Moving back, we've got the battery behind the passenger seat. Now my thinking for this is it's there purely because I want to distribute the weight between the car. I'm no lightweight. I know Daniel's no lightweight, and he thinks he's going to drive this car once it's done. So the chances of most of the time there being two people in is probably quite slim. So I'm going to offset a few bits and pieces in the driver compartment towards the passenger side, just to sort of balance the weight distribution of the car up. So that's why that's there. Downside to it is if you really want to get to the battery, you're going to have to remove the passenger seat. It is a necessary evil. I think it'll be a relatively tidy installation. More importantly, from my perspective, when I come to do the wiring, that means I can run the earth straight down to a point on the chassis without going too far. And more importantly, the cable run will go from the battery through to the starter motor and the alternator and up to electrics. Has literally got to go from the battery to where the firewall is up there. So we're again saving, if you want to look at it that way, probably another sort of 1.5 to 2 meters of cable run. And that stuff, I mean, Daniel can pan into it, but it's really heavy duty. I mean, I think it's something like, I'm going to say 15 mil conductor that goes forward to take the current required to start the car up. So again, it's a little bit of a weight saving. And then if we just sort of move backwards to the back of the car, I've already mentioned about the shocks. So you'll see when you look down there that we've got some new springs on, hopefully give or take correct sort of poundage, but again we can fine tune and adjust that. If we then look along the side of the car, again you'll have noticed as we're walking around the car we've got some fuel lines. Now we're not going to use these fuel lines, pure and simple because I've had them quite a few years. So safety is paramount on this vehicle, and what I don't want to do is go to all this hard work and set fire to the car, and more importantly myself or any passengers. So ignore the fuel line. It's going to be MSA approved, so it'll be the braided hose, stainless steel, or a hard line. I'm not sure which yet. Part of me is favouring a hard line to run the lines forward, and it'll just be a case of how I get it to work, because I'm going to run 2 fuel pumps, 2 fuel systems, one for the fuel and then one for the nitrous, and then the subsequent return lines. So there's going to be 4 lines running down there, which is currently what's fitted in that little bundle. So to use the stainless steel braided lines actually makes it quite a tidy installation. And then running up here, I'm not going to forget this. So this is the mock-up line for nitrous. So the bottle, I think we've shown in a previous video, is going to sit in here. So what I need to do is basically get hold of, whilst we've got the bottle, I need to get hold of the correct mounts to make sure it's safe and located between the rear sort of diagonals there. So we've put the tabs on the chassis all the way front to back to basically run all our fuel lines. We've also done the same. Daniel, if you just pan round down this side, you'll see there's some tabs welded on here and then going down and across the bottom of the chassis. So these ones are all for the rear brake lines as well. Now when you look online at the regs, the MSA regs basically states it's got to be stainless steel. So again, it's got to be the hard line, stainless steel hard line, or it has to be stainless steel braided line for the brakes. You can't run your normal run-of-the-mill copper sort of brake lines you would do in a road car. I'm guessing that's mostly because of potential damage from prop shaft and explosion from the transmission as well. But all the tabs are in, so we're getting a really big step closer to stripping this chassis. And then coming around to the back then, what we've also got is the fuel tank. So got 4 bungs welded on, and my plan here is, and it's not quite finished but almost, so the way the tank is taken by these 4 tabs through the 4 bungs, and then what I've done is, because I'm conscious of, this is give or take a 15-gallon tank. So there's going to be quite a lot of weight suspended from the back. I've then made up some straps that basically go around the tank, and again all the way through this. So the finishing touches for this will be some support ribs on the underside to go between the chassis rail and the underside of the tab, and that will triangulate it and take all the stress off of this weld. So what we don't want is a fuel tank dropping out. That would not give us a good day. What are we going to do today? So, a few little bits and pieces. I think the key thing for today is going to be making the rear support bar for the passenger seat, because if you notice we've got one in for the driver's seat as per the rules and regulations, not one in for the passenger. And whilst I don't intend to take a passenger down the strip, what I do want is them to have the same support in the event of, fingers crossed, God forbid and all that, I do have a crash on the road. I want the passenger seat to be as fully supported as possible, you know, to protect them. And then I think we'll see how we get on. Thank you for watching. Again, any comments, shove them on the bottom. Please don't forget to like, subscribe to the JDH Racing channel. And I believe we've still got some merchandise left as well, so if you do want some beanies and that sort of stuff, then please give us a shout. Cheers, guys.
Okay guys, thank you for watching as always. Here's a few pictures of us stripping it down, ready to weld it for the SFI inspection. As always, please do check out our socials. Facebook is @JDH Racing and Instagram is @JDH Racing 94. Thank you very much. Bye.